Welcome to All Things in the Name of Love. If you like this show, please like, subscribe, and share. Thanks. Welcome to another episode of All Things in the Name of Love. And today I have with me Lauren Fonvielle. Fonville. I'm so sorry. I should have
You're
asked you
fine.
before I press record. And among other things, beautiful soul, love your energy. You practice EFT and you're an integrative energy practitioner and coach. And I want to start off by thanking you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
And then I want to ask you your journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my journey started really with a lot of anxiety. And it was when that anxiety got to a point where I knew I really needed to do something about it
Mhm.
that I started to explore different healing modalities. So it sent me on this whole journey where it started with going to a yoga class. And in that yoga class, I saw a flyer for yoga teacher training. And there was something deep within me that telling me that it was what I needed to do at that time.
Mhm.
And so I signed up for that. And because of being in the yoga studio all the time and meeting all sorts of people that were into different types of energy work, I got exposed to different modalities. And I went on to study Reiki. I began practicing meditation. I had attended sound baths, and then I started playing singing bowls myself. And then I was also introduced to EFT, or the emotional freedom technique. And that was something that really helped move the needle for me and helped me to feel better and calmer in my body. And ultimately helped me make the decision to shift my career from what was once corporate marketing and go on this healing journey. And now I share these modalities with other people.
I love that because just you being open to that next step, which is for me like that surrender of the ego to the journey of uncovering what the soul wants to do in this lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really just a practice of following the little soul nudges. So when
Mhm.
I had an interest in something or something piqued my curiosity, I just allowed myself to go take that class or go sign up for that experience and
Mhm.
see what resonated. And that's really what I always encourage my clients to do is when you get an idea or when you read about something or you see something in a movie or a friend mentions something, these things are happening for a reason.
Mhm.
And trust that and give yourself that gift of exploring it and figuring out what that means for you.
I love that. Yeah, I remember I have been anxious my whole life. I didn't know I was until about 3.5 years ago.
Mm,
And it was because I had numbed myself out so much. And so when I started taking somatic healing lessons with my dear sister, all of a sudden I could start feeling it.
yeah.
I was like, "Oh, what is this like massive heart palpitation in my body at 2 o'clock in the morning?" And so now, because I've been practicing it so long, when I feel that come in, I'm just present with it, and my whole body just does this sinking into deep relaxation. And it maybe is there like a minute, and then it
Mm.
dissipates because, like, all of a sudden my body knows it's safe. It knows I'm present with it. And so, how long did it take you to navigate that anxiety and even prior to that question, um, were you intuitive as a child?
Yeah, I was. I think it kind of came out as anxiety and stress. I think that was something that I always kind of dealt with as a kid, but it was something I managed. Um, but yeah, there are definitely experiences that I remember as a kid that have stuck with me as far as, you know, thinking that there's more than just this.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, I remember when I was 13 in the bathroom staring at myself in the mirror and being like, who am I? No, really, who am I?
I had that too.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just such a it was such I don't even know the words to describe an intense experience.
Yeah.
Being like, but wait, who really am I? Like I kept saying it so much that it really freaked me out.
Mhm. No, I
Um,
get that.
yeah,
I've stared when I was little, I was staring at myself in the mirror and just looking and looking and trying to figure out who I was.
yeah.
I didn't ask the question, but it was like, who's looking at me?
Mhm,
Because I
mhm.
didn't recognize that person because, the soul was still wide awake and trying to figure out what this was.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so it's a very disorienting
My
disorienting.
my cousin tells this story of when she was little. I think she said she was 4 or 5, and she said she remembered knowing why she was here. She and saying to
Wow.
herself, "I'm not going to forget this. I know why I'm here." And then one morning she woke up and she's like, "I don't know why I'm here." And she went to her mom and she's like, "Mom, why am I here? Why am I here?" And her mom's like, what?" You know, but she vividly remembers that
Wow.
as a kid,
That's
like, I knew why I was
beautiful.
here, but then I forgot, you know? And I
That's
mean,
beautiful.
that's what they say. Like you come as a kid and there is that memory, which is why kids are more able to connect with spirit. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I mean, I definitely believe in all of that. And some the stories that my mom would tell me from when I was a baby, things that I would say when I was in the crib, in the morning, I would come in and I'm trying to remember what it was like. I don't remember the details of the story, but she was just like, that's like not something a 2-year-old says." You know, like where did that come from? Oh, she's like, where, like, how do you know that? She said to me. And I
Mm.
said, you don't want to know the answer to that. When I was 2 years old.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I remember my mom telling me this story where I was maybe 6 months old, and she looks in my eyes, and all of a sudden she sees how old my soul is, and it freaked her out.
Mm,
She was like, "I don't know what this is. Like, I thought this was a baby. This is like, I don't," this is, and then like then I saw her freak out, and I like somehow like changed the energy of it.
mm,
But it was like, I mean, she was just like, I had no idea that, like, it just was her first recollection or remembrance of past lives,
mm.
and she never considered it before. So it was like, "Who is this child?" Oh, mom,
Yeah,
you don't wanna know.
I think I've always felt like an old soul. And
Mhm.
my cousin and we talk about that often because we often think that we've done many lives together, and we think that we've been old souls together. And we both have this incredibly ridiculous fear of bees.
Oh,
And
interesting.
yeah, and so we joke that, maybe we were killed by bees in a past
Mm,
past life together. Um, but yeah, yeah, it's interesting to think about that, and your past lives and coming back and
yeah,
forgetting, and then that practice of remembering. And
right.
mhm.
And I just got an intuitive hit about the bees. So I had the opportunity to be a beekeeper for like a month, which was
Oh wow.
amazing. They love the music of a nun from the 14th century called Hildegard.
Okay.
She's a German. Play it, the bees will love you. That's all I can say.
Okay.
I just heard that, so I'm like just sharing it with you because I remember playing it for them and like opening the hive and crying when I saw dead bees because like I've always loved bees. Never had the experience of being around them very much. So this was like a really deep spiritual experience for me because I could actually feel their energy and their appreciation for like since I was little, it was like bees and trees are my two causes because we can't eat without bees, we can't breathe without trees. So like that was like a 5-year-old thing. And
Mm,
so to have that opportunity to really connect with them on a deep level, they love being appreciated.
mm.
So just guided to share that with you.
All right, I will listen to it when I'm sitting outside and I start to freak out hearing the buzzing.
Yeah.
Oh,
You can
cool.
find Hildegard on Spotify. So
Okay. Will do, will do.
yeah. So I love that you have a relative that is sharing your journey with you, because that kind of normalizes the experience a little bit. I did not have that opportunity, so I want to talk to you a little bit about that, of having that opportunity to have a cohort that's also on a journey too, and what that was like for you.
Yeah. So we were close as kids, and then her family moved to another state, so we only would see each other maybe twice a year. And then but as adults we've really reconnected, and
Cool.
yeah, and we both have been on this spiritual journey, and she got really into collecting crystals, and I can be out and I can take a picture of a crystal and be like, "What is this for?" And she's like a human dictionary for crystals and
That's
what
awesome.
yeah, it's really cool. Um, and yeah, and so like if I have any sort of experience or I see some sort of sign, yeah, she's always someone who I want to call and share that with, who just gets it, you know?
Hmm.
Um, and we were recently together, and it happened to be on the anniversary of what would have been my grandfather's 110th birthday.
Oh wow.
and and it wasn't like we had planned to get together that day
Hmm.
because of that.
Right.
I didn't even know until she told me, and then for whatever reason, before I left, I threw a deck of angel cards in my bag. And so then when I was like, oh, I just want to, let's like pull a card and in
Hmm.
honor of Papa. And so we each pulled a card, and each of our cards had something that was meaningful to us, that really connected with him. I'm like, he's
Oh,
here with
cool.
us. It was just like so clear.
I love
And
that.
yeah, it was a really beautiful moment. So I'm very appreciative that I have her, and because I feel like that's something that when someone is going through this alone and not, really knowing what's happening, or feeling like comfortable talking about it with
Hmm.
with anyone, that can be really isolating and lonely. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing to have her to be able to share with.
I love that. That is so beautiful because yeah, I didn't.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening for me, and I think for a lot of people, is um they felt so weird that they shut
Mhm.
down. I know I did. I was like, okay, nobody understands me, and I'm just gonna like shut this part of me down. I remember shutting it down because I
Yeah.
was so scared of it. And I didn't have, and going to a minister and trying to talk to it. You're like, what is this? They're like, yeah, whatever. I'm like, no, no, no. I really want to know what this is. Like, why am I seeing dead people? Why am I astral? I didn't have the words for it, but why am I astral traveling? Why do I feel like there's a presence of non-physical beings around me all the time? Didn't have that answer.
Hmm.
So it was a bit of a journey, but
Yeah, no, that just makes me think about my sister. So when my sister was young, she would see a guardian angel at the
oh
edge of her
wow.
bed. And she would tell my mom that she saw this guardian angel, described what it looked like, and my mom would just say, "Oh, it was a dream. Oh, you
Hmm.
have an active imagination, all of this." And and then eventually, my sister started seeing auras around people when she's walking down the street, and she really shut it down, because it was scary, and
Hmm.
she was uncomfortable for a long time. She shut it down, and then it came back, and she's been able to embrace it. And so
Cool.
I think not I think what you shared about like not having somebody to share it with, or have somebody validate that what your experience is real, and that you're not crazy, it
Right.
can lead to just shutting down, isolation, not wanting to talk about it, because it's scary. It can be
Yeah.
a scary experience when you don't know what's happening.
I'm feeling this. It's really cool. Like, you seem to have a very spiritual family.
Yeah, I would say that's true. Yeah.
Do you have ancestors that were practitioners in any way that you know of? Because it feels like it's pretty strong in the genes.
So it's interesting that you say that. That's like come through in readings before, but not that I know of.
Okay.
I've been told in readings that my grandmother had like the gift of sight, but I mean I connect with her now, and she is definitely strong guidance for me, and I feel very connected with not only her but my other grandmother, my grandfather. uh, so I do feel like it's there, but interestingly, like my grandfather, this is a fun story. My grandfather was someone when he was alive that believed that when you died, you were dead in the ground, the end, no more, right? And after he died, it was years after he died. I had moved out to San Diego. I was originally from New York, moved out to San Diego, and I had joined this meditation group. And we would meet once a week for, I don't know, an hour and a half. There was, I think, 5 of us in this group. And each week we would come in and we would sit down and she'd be playing music and we would wait for everybody to get there. And then we would immediately move into a guided meditation that she would lead us through. And on the drive to go to this class this particular night that I'd been going to for a while now, but for whatever reason, that night I had a conversation with my grandfather in my head. And I thought, oh my goodness, like if you were still alive and you're probably rolling over in your grave knowing that I'm paying for somebody to like lead me through meditation, right? And so I said, maybe you could send me a sign. And that was it. I walk into the class, I sit down, waiting for everybody to get there, and she starts as normal. And she's guiding us through this meditation. And about halfway through, she says, I am being told I need to change the CD. And she'd never done this before in any of the previous classes. And so she changes the music, and this time she changed it from instrumental music, which she always said she would only play instrumental music so that we don't get distracted by the words of
Mhm.
a song. But this particular day, she put on this song and it had words to it. And the words in the song were, I am here, I am with you. And I was just, I mean, amazed. I was like, whoa, if that's not a sign, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. So the song ends and I open my eyes and the woman that was leading us through this is staring directly at me. And I just kind of smiled and she said, did you feel something during this? And I said, oh yeah. And she said, because there is a really tall blue light behind you right now. And my
Wow.
grandfather was a tall man. And yeah, I was like, okay, well, yes, that's pop up. I asked for a sign and he's here. And to
Mhm.
me, that was the first time that I really had that type of connection. And when
Mhm.
I went home, I called my dad and I told him that about the song change, and he asked me what song it was, and I don't remember the name of the song, but it was by Don Ho, which I later found out was one of my grandfather's favorite singers.
I love that.
So it's just like so many things,
Mhm.
that you just can't make that stuff up.
Right. I I
Yeah.
I love this story because, like, when you're on the process of remembering, like, you'll get these signs
Mhm.
and, like, it's like, "Did that really happen?"
Mhm.
And getting the confirmations on those levels. I had one experience where I was driving in, Washington from Redmond to Seattle, and there's a road where you get on a bridge, and on one side you see the Cascade Mountains, and the other side you see the Olympic Peninsula. And he never came out west, and I was like, "Dad, I so wish you could have seen this." All of a sudden, I'm doing 60 miles an hour. I feel his energy come in. I see him looking around, and he's like, "That is so cool." And then he takes off again. I'm like, "You get really? That was it?"
Wow, wow.
But I mean, that was like 10 years ago or something like that. So I mean, the fact that I felt it, and I mean, I can't deny it because I could feel him looking at everything, and he also would have taken over my car because he loved BMWs, and he would have like
Mhm.
absconded with it. But like I could just feel him feeling what I was seeing, and that joy and enthusiasm that wasn't me and I could feel it. It's such a cool feeling, and when you develop your spiritual skills enough to be able to open yourself up, that's when it gets really fun.
Mhm. Yeah, like following the signs, being open to the signs,
Mhm,
and then you just feel more connected. I don't know, I
mhm,
definitely feel more in alignment when I'm grounded and when I'm
mhm.
open to those signs, and I feel connected, I feel supported, and I think we all wanna feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah, we do because we've been led to this illusion of separation.
Mhm.
And yeah, this yesterday it was still raining, but I'm in Oregon. So it's been raining a lot. um it's sunny for the next 5 days. The guidance I heard and something I love doing is laying on the grass for a couple hours and
Mm.
just absorbing that energy and watching the clouds go by and just forgetting time because it's
Mm.
such a nourishing thing for my soul to do.
Mhm.
And it came in like it was almost a yell when I was doing my journaling yesterday morning. It's like, "Oh, no, 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 you're gonna be grounding a lot in the next few days because I haven't been and my body feels off because of it."
Yeah.
And so I'm sharing that as an example of how you can receive the guidance because it's not always these big things. It can be as simple as like, "Okay, don't eat that."
Yeah, no, and I think too, I mean, that kind of connects with the work that I do with EFT and tapping because I
Mhm,
really feel like it is a tool that helps you connect the mind with the body because our body is always speaking to us. It's always telling us things. And oftentimes we as humans do not listen to our body until it gets to a point where it is screaming at us and then
mhm.
we have no option but to listen, right?
Right.
But we don't need to be in pain
Mhm.
before we start listening to our body. So
Right.
those little things like you're talking about, you know, a thought of, oh, maybe I shouldn't eat this and I should try this instead.
Mhm.
Trust that, you know, don't ignore that and you'll reap the benefits of that
Yeah.
later, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you help people start to tune into their intuition?
hmm Yeah. So a lot of the time when I start with when I work with someone doing EFT, I tend to start with something physical because we all seem to have something physical going on, whether it's aches or pains or something more serious, and being able to really listen in and what does that pain or what does that sensation doesn't even necessarily have to be a pain, but what does
Mhm.
that sensation feel like in your body?
Mm.
When do you feel that sensation? Does that sensation make you think about something else that's happened in your life in the past? And so these are all questions that I ask as we are going through the tapping
Mhm, mhm,
process. And the answers to those questions basically open doors, and then we go through those doors and we see where it leads us because
mhm,
oftentimes the things that are happening with ourselves either physically in the body or emotionally have a lot to do with our past experiences and
mhm,
the emotions that are attached to those past experiences because when we experience uncomfortable things in our life and we have things that happen that leave us feeling angry, frustrated, sad, overwhelmed. Those are not enjoyable, warm, fuzzy feelings, and so
right.
we tend to what I call stuff them down,
Mhm,
and then we distract ourselves, and maybe that means throwing yourself into your work or throwing yourself into doing things with your kids, whatever it is, or throwing yourself onto the couch and eating too much, like whatever it is, to not feel the feelings. But I think
mhm,
we all know that over time, those things build up and then they're going to come out in some way, either physically or emotionally. And so
mhm,
this work that I do, while it starts with whatever the presenting issue is, whether that be anxiety, stress, overwhelm, or physical pain, it's this process of beginning to really peel back these experiences that we've had, these different
mhm,
layers in our lives to get to the root of why we are feeling the way that we're feeling,
Mhm.
and then allow ourselves to feel that kind of, back to your point from what you were saying in the beginning, like recognizing that you are experiencing something, you allow yourself to sit in that feeling,
Mhm.
and then it dissipates, right? So it's like
Mhm.
allowing yourself to feel it, embody it, and then move through it. And when doing that, then you're not having to continue to expend all this energy running from feeling these emotions
Mhm.
and stuffing all this stuff down.
I love that because like my journey has been a combination of energy healing and somatic work. And what has happened with me and a whole bunch of triggers. But what happens with me is like it's like it's a subconscious piece that comes into my awareness
Mhm.
and then I'm present with it. And so I'm curious, how does the EFT help bring that process of bringing the subconscious into the conscious
Mhm.
work?
Yeah, because when we start with however we are currently feeling,
Mhm.
those experiences or those things that are in our subconscious naturally start to make their way to the conscious. So
Mhm.
holding space for where you are right now
Mhm.
then gives the space for those other things to make their way to the surface.
That is very cool because it is a process.
Mhm.
I've had
Definitely.
many different ways of like trying to navigate my subconscious and now I think it's because I've worked on myself so much, it's like it just comes up when I'm ready for it. And my my desire is to get as many of the programs out as possible without
Mm.
like torturing myself.
Right. 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 We don't want to torture ourselves. That's what I always like to tell people. It's like we are here to feel good.
Mhm.
And, when we have dreams or visions or desires for things, it's not just so that we can think about it and then be upset that we don't
Right.
have it. Like that's coming to us for a reason so that we can go after it because we deserve it. We're worthy of it.
Mhm.
And we are worthy of feeling good. We all deserve
Yeah.
to feel good, and this is some of the work that sometimes is necessary to get to that place.
Right, right, because the subconscious can have some crazy stuff.
Oh yeah, it sure can.
I remember a couple months ago, I came across and I was given 3 days to see the whole big picture of it,
Mhm.
of a protection mechanism that my little girl came up with based on a whole bunch of distorted understandings of things. And that was nothing bad, it was just, like, how I ended up creating a lens through which I saw the world. And when I saw the whole thing, I was like, "Wow, okay, I can see how my little 10-year-old came up with X and Y and triple Z and A to come up with this. None of that actually makes sense."
Mhm.
But and as soon as I saw how little it made sense and how convoluted it was and how many obstacles I gave myself to navigate through to feel safe, um it just dissipated.
Yeah.
But it was like,
When we can,
wow.
yeah, when we can name it and see it and shine a light on it, something that
Yeah,
has been in the dark for so long, it doesn't have that same kind of power over us anymore.
right. And the beauty of, I mean, for me, it's just taken, I've had the slow remembrance. It's taken me a while to like uncover things, but like that onion layer of, oh, I thought I already healed this. Well, you did
Mhm.
heal it here. Now you get to do it here, and then you get to do it at a different because
Yeah,
with
I love that. I mean, that's so common, right? It's like, what? I've already done the work on this. Why is this coming up again? Like that is that I can't tell you how often I hear that, right? But it's
yeah.
also, we're human and things are going to happen and things are going to be triggered within
Hmm.
you. And it's just, yeah, it's another level
Right.
of healing that needs to occur.
Right, because you came in here for ancestral healing, for your own healing, and for future generations. And, if you sign that contract, I know I did.
Yeah.
um, And so, and it doesn't mean that you're taking on your great grandfather's whatever it was, but like through your own healing, that goes generations back and generations forward.
Mhm.
And so it really is a matter of when we go within and heal ourselves, the ripple effects are so powerful that we can't really comprehend them.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's true, and how connected we are with our ancestors. And I remember when I saw a picture of like if you think about, you know, a pregnant woman, like my grandmother. When my grandmother was pregnant with my mom, I was an egg inside of my mom, right? So there
Yeah.
was all we were all together at one point.
Mhm.
So it makes sense that energetically too, you're going to be receiving whatever it was that they were dealing with
Yeah.
in you know, that my grandmother was dealing with, that my mom felt that then was in me, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting to think about all that and
Yeah.
how we do have the power to create the change that we want to make.
Mhm. Mhm. And that's a beautiful thing because like if we're given traumas, regardless of what the trauma is, if it's like abuse, codependency, whatever it can be, knowing that we have the choice to stop the patterning
Mhm.
and clear it out of our past and our DNA and our epigenetics and the programming, like that many layers, it's so liberating to feel the shift within our bodies because that's what happens for me anyways.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. It's powerful. It's powerful work. And I mean, this is a journey that I never, you know, years ago, I never would have thought that that I'd be on this journey of and talking about all of these things, but it's also trusting the process and,
Mhm.
you know, yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
So I could ask you because I was in corporate and academic America. When did you start noticing that what you were doing wasn't your highest calling?
Mm. So when I was in the beginning stages of really testing out and trying these different modalities. At that point, I was doing marketing work, working for myself, doing marketing work for entrepreneurs. And in those conversations that I was having with these entrepreneurs, I loved the work. I loved doing content writing. And I would have talks with these women, and they would share that they were having anxiety about a talk that they had to give, or um, stressing out about having to do videos that were going on social media, or whatever the case may be. And so because I was in that beginning stage of, oh, I'm doing this tapping and it seems to be working for me, I was just always talking about it and wanting to share it with people. And
Mhm.
so it started off by me saying, hey, I'm doing this thing, I know it sounds a little weird, but do you want me to teach you how to do it and see if it helps you? And they were open to it. You know,
Oh,
several of
cool.
these people that I was working with were open to it. And so when they started noticing a difference and feeling better, I was like, there really is something to this.
Mhm.
And that was when I really like felt the pull. I have to go more in this direction, because I really love helping people in this
Mhm.
way. And so that's when I went really more on the journey of getting certified, so that I can share it.
That's beautiful. I love that because that drive of I mean, I feel it's innate within you that drive to help because I had that with animals. Like I do remember this. I was in a body cast and got out of the body cast when I was really little and I start running after I get out and we had a cabin by a beach in Connecticut that my grandfather bought in the 20s and there's geese, Canadian geese. And I walk into the gaggle of geese and they surround me, but they feel my energy.
Hmm.
And I think they're my friends because they are. They're my friends. I don't care that they're geese, they're my friends. And my parents freak out. I innately know that I'm supposed to talk to animals. like, I can't articulate that at 3, but, like, any animal that comes in my realm, even trees and rocks, they're my friends.
Mhm.
Like, and I can't quantify it because people are like, "But only humans are well, no, no, actually, like, they're my buddies, like, they'll hang with me, I like how I have conversations with them and stuff." I knew that when I was little, and then I completely went on to completely different trajectory because I didn't wanna cut anybody open, so I got a PhD in history because I like studying people in different time periods, but what I really wanted to do was help my friends.
Mm. Yeah.
It just took a long time.
Yeah. The best, I mean, we always think it should happen happen
Right.
fast. It does, but it happens in the time that it does for a reason. And
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's fascinating.
mm.
So what pulled you from, the East to the West Coast?
At the time I had just gotten married. My husband was in the Navy and we got stationed out in San Diego. Yeah. And then we moved back once he got out and wanted to be closer to family and moved to Virginia, and ultimately we ended up here in Delaware.
How is the energy over there?
You know what? There are a lot of people that are very spiritual, and when I first moved out here, there was a event called the Mind Body Spirit
Mhm.
Festival, and I was just floored. It was held at a local college, and it was three
Oh,
floors.
cool. Oh, wow.
Yeah, three floors of vendors selling things, crystals or pendulum. I mean, all sorts of anything that you could want was there. Then there
Mhm,
were like,
mhm.
craniosacral sessions and readings of all sorts. And I was like, who would have thought that
Yeah.
all of this would be here? Maybe I was guided to be in this space for a reason. I never thought I would have ended up in Delaware,
Right.
but here I am surrounded by all these people. And for the last several
Wow.
years now, I go and I speak at that event. And, and I've gotten to meet some really amazing people. And yeah, I think there's a lot of spiritual people that I've connected with
Mm.
in this area. And I'm very grateful for that because, to your point of what you were saying earlier, it's a lot different on the East Coast than it is on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And being able to be open and experience everything that I experienced while I was in my early 20s out there, and um, having that, I think, always kept that fire like burning inside of me,
Mhm,
wanting
mhm.
wanting more of that and trying to
Yeah.
find that community. And I really didn't find that community until I moved here to Delaware, because we lived in Virginia for about 8 years before we
Okay.
moved here.
That's fascinating. I'm so glad I'm very, very glad to hear that because, I mean, I was back in Maine 4.5 years ago for one of my girlfriend's birthdays. I was a birthday present. It was amazing. And
Oh,
I I was surprised. I like she had no idea it was coming. And so I hang out with her friends that I knew when I was at the University of Maine. And I had just started studying body talk and quantum physics. And so I'm starting to talk about energy fields and frequencies. And they're like, what? What are you talking about? And I'm like, "No, no, no, it's like, like quarks, like you focus on one thing and the quarks like I'm trying to explain the different language." And they're just looking at me like I have 5 heads. And I'm like, "No, but I realized that I'm speaking a different language from you." So it was a really interesting experience because they're all like happy to see me kind of until
Mhm.
I talked. I'm like, "Too soon?"
Yeah, yeah, and finding that community of people that you can talk to is important,
Yeah.
and so helpful to
Oh
have people
yeah.
to rely on and who understand, and all of that. So yeah, I'm grateful that I've found that here.
Yeah, I'm grateful you have too. Like right now where I'm living is in rural Oregon, near Salem. And it's an interesting space to be in because it's rural, it's conservative, but yet I see signs of people waking up
Mhm.
all around, and it's just this really cool experience to like, wow, I'm not judging, but I wouldn't have expected it.
Mhm.
But when I see tattoos of the flower of life on barkeeps, it's like, okay, things are shifting.
Right. No, it's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. How are you seeing that reflect in your clients? Like, are you seeing shifts in their awarenesses?
Yeah, I definitely feel like I'm connecting with more people who are more aware. I feel like a lot of the people, sometimes people come to me because they're kind of at their wits' end with having
Mhm,
tried all sorts of other things
mhm,
to fix whatever their issue is. I recently worked with a gentleman who had a fear of driving over bridges, and he's tried all sorts of other methods of trying to get over this fear. And he had heard, I had connected with his wife at a different event, and someone at that event had talked to her about her experience in using tapping and how it helped her get over her fear of going over bridges. And and so sometimes it's but like he was so open, and the
cool.
awareness was there, and he was like, I've talked to shaman, I've talked to therapists, like he was ready, you know what I mean, like he.
Cool.
And so yeah, like I feel like that it's more and more common for me to be working with people who are really, like, really aware and open and ready and willing. And I don't know if that's also just, energetically what I'm putting out there, and what I
Mhm,
yeah, and that's what I'm attracting to. But there's also been people that have come to maybe some of my introductory workshops that perhaps were dragged there by a friend or a partner or something, and are extremely skeptical
mhm,
and, not so sure about this whole thing yet. Okay, I'm here. I'll do whatever it is you're telling me to do. And then afterwards, we'll be like, oh, that really did make me feel different. You know what I mean? And like it can be the spark to get
yeah,
to go down that path that maybe begins that new level of awareness. But
that's
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, that's pretty cool.
I love that. Oh my gosh. So, how do you like, how do you incorporate is it primarily EFT, or do you incorporate all of the modalities that you learned in your
Yeah.
sessions?
I definitely specialize in EFT,
Okay.
but I absolutely incorporate everything else in, and it's dependent upon the person that I'm working with. Most of the clients that come to me are very, very open and willing to at least try once something that I am recommending, whether that's doing a guided meditation, or pulling angel cards, or doing some Reiki, or coming to a sound bath. But when I work with my clients, it's very much an organic process
Mhm,
of identifying, what the problem is, what us, their idea of progress is, and what how they want to solve the problem,
mhm,
what that would look like for them. And then week by week, we work together, and it can look different each week. And what we are talking about or tapping on can be different from week to week based on
mhm.
whatever's going on in their life at that time. And it's just a very much a collaborative process
Cool.
as kind of move towards that goal. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
Thanks.
Mm. I just got a request to ask you if you record your sound baths.
So I don't, simply because I need to figure out the best recording devices for that,
Okay.
to pick up the sound in the best
Yeah.
way. Sometimes So I've tried to do it sometimes virtually in a session with certain bowls. It's the frequency just isn't, I don't have
Mhm.
the right equipment for it to be picked up properly, but it
Yeah.
is something that I've thought about for sure.
Yeah, because it just came in. I'm like, "Ooh, that would be really, really pleasant." Okay. Just thought I'd ask. Mm. So I am feeling slightly aware of the time, and so I'm feeling that I'm going to ask you the question, how can people find you?
Yeah. So I am on my website is mindshiftwithlauren.com. And if you search for that on Instagram, you'll find me there, Mind Shift with Lauren. And same thing on YouTube. So I have a YouTube channel where I send out weekly videos, and I also send that out via an email. So if people are interested in that. If you're interested in learning more about EFT and how it can help you with anxiety, stress, physical pain, I have a free masterclass on my website, which is mindshiftwithlauren.com/masterclass.
Awesome. Well, honey, I want to thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. This has been such a
Mm.
fun conversation.
Yeah, it's been such a pleasure, and I'm so grateful that you're doing the work in the world and that you're shining your light so brightly. And it's such a joy to know you.
Oh, thank you.
You're
Thank you so much,
welcome.
Sophia.
You're welcome.